Donald Trump is preparing a meeting between Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. Meanwhile, Ukraine could receive security guarantees modeled on NATO's Article 5. I'm Sofia Nazarenko, you are watching Channel 24, and this is the breaking news. But before we get into today's headlines, vote in the poll under this video. Do you think Vladimir Putin will actually sign a long-term peace deal with Ukraine? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian leader Vladimir Putin could meet face-to-face at the negotiation table. US President Donald Trump is beginning preparation for their potential meeting. Donald Trump shared this news after the meeting with the Ukrainian president and European leaders in Washington.
At the conclusion of the meetings, I called President Putin and began the arrangements for a meeting at a location to be determined between President Putin and President Zelensky. After that meeting takes place, we will have a trilat, which would be the two presidents, plus myself. Again, this was a very good early step for a war that has been going on for almost 4 years. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff are coordinating with Russia and Ukraine.
He described their discussions with the Ukrainian side and European leaders as very productive. The meeting went through several rounds. Then, after Trump's call with Putin, the negotiations picked up again, this time in a leaders-only format right in the Oval Office. Trump did not go into the details of the talk, but he says they discussed security guarantees for Ukraine, guarantees that would come from various European countries working together with the US. He also didn't mention any preconditions and said nothing about ceasefire. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed Trump's peace efforts, but he stressed one thing: if the meeting doesn't happen, allies might step up and impose additional sanctions on Russia.
President Donald Trump believes in his ability to reach an agreement, and he also believes that Russian President Vladimir Putin wants such a peace agreement. And I welcome that, and I want to believe it after the meetings they have had. But if this process is rejected, we all agree that sanctions will have to be increased, and in any case, we will have to take a stance that puts more pressure on the Russian side to return to the negotiating table.
Emmanuel Macron added that, looking ahead, the format should be expanded to include Europe, because they are talking about the security of the entire continent. Later, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said a meeting between Zelensky and Putin could happen within the next 2 weeks. Meanwhile, in the Kremlin, officials said Trump and Putin discussed raising the level of the negotiations. Putin's advisor, Yuri Ushakov, didn't clarify what that means and made no mention of any potential three-way leaders meeting. President Volodymyr Zelensky does not rule out a possible territorial swap with Russia. The Wall Street Journal, citing diplomatic sources after the White House meeting, reports that Zelensky did not reject the idea of a territorial exchange with Trump. He said so the actual relocating people and dealing with Ukraine's constitutional ban on handing over territory would be very challenging. Still, according to media reports, the Ukrainian president said he could consider a proportional exchange. During the meeting, US President Donald Trump said the idea of territorial swap was on the table, but he stressed that the final decision would be up to Ukraine.
We also need to discuss the possible exchanges of territory, taking into consideration the current line of contact. That means the war zone, the war lines that are pretty obvious, very sad actually to look at them, and negotiating positions. President Putin, also you have President of Ukraine, who is you just met a little while ago, and we're going to try and get a three-party meeting, maybe as soon as we can, and I have a feeling you and President Putin are going to work something out. Ultimately, this is a decision that can only be made by President Zelensky and by the people of Ukraine working also together in agreement with President Putin.
After meeting with Donald Trump, Volodymyr Zelenskyy told reporters that he plans to deal with territorial issues directly in talks with Putin. He added that he also briefed the US side on the front lines and even showed them where Ukrainian army is making its advances.
The issue of territories is a matter that we will leave between me and Putin.
Ukraine could receive security guarantees modeled on NATO's Article 5. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni announced this during a meeting of European leaders with the US President Donald Trump in Washington.
We stand alongside Ukraine and support the peace efforts of the President of the United States. We have been invited to contribute with diplomatic proposals, and we are pleased that the starting point for security guarantees is an Italian proposal to build effective security guarantees inspired by Article 5 of the NATO Washington Treaty. Clearly, we have to work on this.
According to Trump, Russia has agreed to let Ukraine receive security guarantees from Western allies. The US is expected to be part of these guarantees, but the exact level of American involvement is still under discussion.
President Putin agreed that Russia would accept security guarantees for Ukraine, and this is one of the key points that we need to consider, and we're going to be considering that at the table also, like who will do what, essentially. I'm optimistic that collectively we can reach an agreement that would deter any future aggression against Ukraine.
However, Russia's official stance on security guarantees for Ukraine remains unclear. The country has repeatedly opposed Ukraine's NATO membership. After the Washington summit, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that while the US and some other countries are against Ukraine joining NATO, the alliance's official position after 2024 summit remains that Ukraine's path to NATO is irreversible. He confirms that discussions are now underway on security guarantees for Ukraine modeled on NATO's Article 5. Later, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that talks on Ukraine's security guarantees between the US and key European allies would continue this Tuesday. Ukraine does not expect all countries providing security guarantees to send peacekeepers. President Volodymyr Zelensky stated this after the Washington meeting. His security guarantee proposal for Ukraine rely on commitments from countries that voluntarily joined the so-called coalition of the willing. Currently, about 30 countries have signed up for this coalition, but Ukraine understands that each country's contribution will be very different.
Some will probably be ready to talk about presence, some will talk about intelligence, some about the sea, and some about air safety. Different formats. Some do not have constitutional rights and have the opportunity to finance Ukrainian production. This is a deep and broad issue. Let's wait until everything is clear in detail.
Zelensky outlined Ukraine's version for security guarantees in two parts: financial support and security commitments. Ukraine plans to secure funding for its own defense production and to buy American weapons. The president also mentioned an agreement for the US to buy Ukrainian drones. Zelensky expects that these security guarantees will be formalized within the next 7 to 10 days. Russia attacked Ukraine during the Zelensky-Trump meeting in Washington. Overnight, Russia launched 270 drones and 10 ballistic and cruise missiles across Ukraine. Ukrainian air forces intercepted most of them, but impacts were recorded from 4 missiles to 40 drones at 16 locations, with debris falling in 3 areas. The main target was Kremenchuk in the Poltava region, where dozens of explosions shocked the city and black smoke covered the skyline. Russian strikes hit energy and transport infrastructure. No casualties have been reported so far. According to the Kremenchuk City Council, unexploded cluster munition are being discovered across the city following the attack. Thank you for watching. That's all for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about Zelensky's visit with European leaders to Washington?